welcome to episode 9 of One Angry Black Republican Podcast. I'm your host, B, and this is season 2, episode 9. Interestingly enough, episode 9, this episode is going to be a little emotional for me because ultimately it's about DMX. You know, we just lost DMX April 9th and yesterday. So there's a lot of people chiming in about DMX's life. You know, I've been on a DMX music binge all night, listening to everything X. You know, and it was the same for the neighbors, the same for a lot of people. A lot of people are watching Belly. You know, last night was just my favorite DMX movie of all, one of my favorite movies of all time, to be honest, Belly. So, DMX, his, passing at 50 years old, is disturbing to me on so many different levels, but this particular podcast, I'm not going to focus on all of the history of DMX, only one particular part of DMX's life that I think, speaks to much of the disaster that many of us have experienced as black people in America. The tragedy of, the drug pandemic, okay? We can, go back to specific evidence, with the CIA flooding our streets with crack cocaine and, the damage that it has, caused in the black community. It's like a rupture. It created a rupture in an already, fragile community, and why, this country would want to continue to push us over the proverbial ledge behooves me still, especially since the illusion of acceptance, and, the illusion of, peace amongst us, always, finds a way of fracturing again, i.e. George Floyd. We just happen to be in the midst of the George Floyd trial. So, black people have had an edgy, reality in this current America, especially with the COVID pandemic. There are a lot of different realities that we're dealing with. And, to top all that off, to, suffer through the loss of one of our icons, DMX, specifically our icon from the streets, because, DMX all the way was straight street. He was straight street all the way. And, unfortunately, there are, people think that, they can handle a street dude who, has already gone through probably so much trauma, okay, that, and that trauma, especially if it goes undiagnosed for years, develops layers upon layer upon layer, so there's so many layers to, we that come, from the streets, okay, in America, knowing the oppression that many have had to endure in the streets. It's not a simple task, trying to handle or, deal with a street dude. So, this particular podcast, I'm going to focus on, the episode, which I believe was a major turning point in DMX's life. When he appeared on, Iyanla Vanzant's, Fix My Life. Okay? Which, look, I'm going to keep it real with you. What Hollywood will do, to make money the exploitation that they will, put people through in order to make money. We can go all the way back to Jerry Springer, okay, Phil Donahue, and, Ricky Lake, and all of these, talk show gurus, all the way up to Dr. Phil, and Oprah. This is a talk culture, okay, especially when it comes to television and, the whole reality, explosion, reality TV explosion. Iyanla Vanzant, who at one point I really, I read In the Meantime, and I when I was in college, and, so Iyanla Vanzant is not, a fly-by-night in our culture. She's not a fly-by-night in the black community, okay? She's a staple, okay? And I don't in any way, shape, form, or fashion want to diminish the power of this beautiful sister. I just think in this particular moment, she got, she bit off more than she could chew in trying to, quote-unquote, fix DMX's life, okay? The first thing I want to, delve into is that, we as, blacks from the community who have been born, bred, street, first of all, this whole idea of something having to be fixed, okay? No, we, healing maybe, we need to heal, but, the idea or the to say that our lives have to be fixed, creates a certain, connotation, that places most of the onus on the victim, okay? Let's be clear. Black people are victims in America. And, I know we have a whole cadre of, the people in the black bourgeoisie who want to, eliminate that from our consciousness, that reality from our consciousness, by constantly calling us out, and if we gravitate towards trying to explain things through that lens, we're beaten up, intellectually, we're beaten up socially on so many different levels, okay? Because it's like, the quote unquote victim mentality. It's not a victim mentality when you've actually been a victim or you're being victimized, okay? It's a reconditioning. It's a behavior now, that springs from that reality. And, so when I first watched the episode of Iyanla Vanzant's, Fix My Life with DMX, it it hurt my spirit on so many different levels. Okay, it hurt my spirit on so many different levels because, DMX is a rarity, okay, in our diaspora. He's a rarity in our diaspora. Earl Simmons didn't just, wake up one day and find himself an icon. He we discovered him. Okay, he was a diamond in the rough, like so many of our warriors that come out of the hood, okay? The hood for us is like sacred ground, okay? And, so much blood has spilled into the streets, and so many have lost their lives in the hood, okay? Listen, when you have a culture of, where people, put tattoo tears on their eyes, okay, that's a staple in our culture, okay, to represent the bodies that dropped in the hood. So many have, been in that street life and have fallen, okay? Legends, we call them our fallen soldiers, our fallen warriors. When you come out of that experience and you conquer America like a DMX did, Okay, DMX conquered America being himself. Okay? He conquered America being himself. He conquered the American economy being himself. That, to do that, because first of all, most of us that come out of the urban experience, the black ghetto experience, okay, we're cut from stone. DMX was cut from stone, a true concrete rose, okay, and you don't get to that level without having some clear understanding of who you are as a person. You've made amends with who you are as a person, okay? Now, it is unfortunate that, and I'm gonna keep it funky with you. Is what really irked my spirit about Iyanla Vanzant and that episode where she brought his son. This what hurt me the most. Okay, and I was rewatching it again last night. Because this, happened in back in 2013. But the ramifications of a moment like that, the trauma of a moment like that. Okay, having first of all, let's get to the nitty gritty of things. DMX walks out in this episode where his son is there, and he was so emotionally open when he saw his son, okay? Now, apparently he hadn't seen his son for, possibly like a year and some change, I believe a year and a half. He hadn't seen or spoken with his son. And then he sees his son, and instinctively, it's like his heart opened all the way up. He embraced his son with such a hug, that it broke all of our hearts to watch that, that level of emotion. And with a street dude, there aren't too many people that could bring out that kind of emotion in a person. Okay, sometimes your family don't even have the ability or the power, the influence to break you down like that, because you got this exterior that is like a rock, and steel exterior, where it is very difficult to penetrate you emotionally, because you have to be a weapon in many respects, and being that weapon requires you to be hard emotionally. So to see a thug, so to speak, break down emotionally. Oh my God. He hugged his son for almost 5 minutes. He was sitting there hugging his son. He was so elated and emotionally open. And one of the key things that created that emotion is that his son thought of him. His son thought of him. We as fathers, especially when we have boys, and you go through that upheaval with your son. I was a positive reinforcement parent. Me and my son, we didn't have the greatest of relationships coming up, because of the foolishness of me and his mother. You know what I'm saying? But, we knuckled through it all. You know what I'm saying? And I remember when, my son went through his rebellion. He left my house as a sophomore, to go back with his mom. And that hurt me. It really did. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that. So, in my view, he was like my prodigal son, always going to return home to the source, your father. But, the emotion that I had, when we started texting again, and I got that first text, I was like, oh my God, he thought of me. I could empathize with where DMX was. He said, oh my God, he thought of me. He was broken down emotionally. Okay. And then the way he was sandbagged, it's like, and this is where it people like Iyanla in situations like this, Okay, she's detached. At this point, she's a businesswoman. That's her business. Ratings. Okay? She wasn't emotionally invested in this family. Okay, or this boy, because if she had some understanding, specifically on a social work level, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just put celebrities in positions like that. Ultimately, she wasn't prepared to handle that. People get degrees for this kind of work. Okay, master degrees and licenses to be able to deal with, the range of emotions and have the understanding. The woman, for God's sake, when DMX was given an ultimatum, and that's what this podcast is focusing on today, the ultimatum culture. Okay, these microaggressions that so many Americans use. In this particular case, the microaggressions that came from Iyanla Vanzant in pushing DMX in that episode, pushing him, and then, not being able to understand his hood integrity. There is an integrity, there is an honor, there is a valor that comes out of the hood when you have gone through so much trauma and you get to the point where you're not trying to push that trauma on other people or push, more or when you have gone through something, okay, you come out of that two ways. You either, take what you have been subjected to and you become that to other people, or you want to see people heal. And you do whatever you can in your power to pray so that people can heal. And that's the road DMX took. That's the road he took. He took the road of the healer. Every time we saw him, he was an ordained minister, for God's sake. He became an ordained minister. Okay, the sister who, was his girl, Keisha in Belly, said about him when she was discussing, him with Fat Joe. She said on set, he always quoted scripture, like he knew the scriptures backward and forward. That was her word. Those were her words. DMX prayed with people. That's what he became. Knowing that he's dealing with his own demons, and we are all dealing with demons in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But it is not our place to beat people up because of what they're dealing with. And unfortunately, this particular son didn't understand that. DMX could not believe, one, he couldn't believe that his son, if he had issues like this, that he would take it to that level. You couldn't call me? You my son. You couldn't just pick up the phone if you really were concerned with my well-being? You couldn't just pick up the phone or send me a text or something? You had to bring this quote-unquote lady in the mix of it? Like he felt betrayed. Okay? He felt betrayed. And this whole intervention culture, listen, it is not an intervention when it's on some broadcast television show for the world to see. It's not no intervention. I'm sorry. Those people are capitalist exploiters. So Iyanla Vanzant joined the class of the exploiter when she, took DMX's life. The life of one of our icons. Okay? And, we'll probably never know, why DMX even subjected himself in the first place to going on that show. Okay? I don't know what these people have to deal with, especially when I say these people, I'm talking about celebrity icons who, have to uphold a certain image. You know what I'm saying? In the culture. You know what I'm saying? When people see DMX, we I don't know what he's experiencing mentally in terms of why, it's like he has to live a certain lifestyle. He has to continue to project a certain image. You know what I'm saying? And DMX held on to that image until the end. X gonna give it to you. He held on to his image to the end. to the end. You know, and street dudes are not the type of fellas that you can subject to ultimatums. His son didn't understand that. He said it himself. You know, he said, so in order to build a relationship with me, you're telling me I gotta do X, Y, and Z. A real stand-up dude is gonna be like, listen, dude, later for that. You don't get to dictate to me. I'm your father. Thou shalt honor thy mother and thy father, if you believe that. And he believed that. He believed that. Oh, dad, the women, the kid. Yeah, come on, man. Come on. Come on, man. You hurt your father. And you know what? Boys can do that with their fathers. They can hurt their fathers. So it's horrible when women, teach their boys to hate their fathers. That's horrible. That's a crime. That's criminal. Because you're not just destroying trying to destroy that man's life. You're destroying that child's life. That child got to live with that reality for the rest of his life. For the rest of his life. He got to live with not knowing the damage he caused. And yes, I'm not saying that, the drug addicted isn't causing harm. They are in many cases. They are. They're causing a harm as well. They're causing a harm in their children who have to watch them go through this. They're causing harm in their families, their mothers, their brothers, their sisters, their fathers. They're causing damage in their spirit too. But sometimes people need to, you need to lend people your strength if they don't have their own. And if you can't lend to someone your strength, then you have to fall back and let them handle it themselves. But you don't get to add on to the trauma. You don't get to do that. So I'm looking at a man who embraces his son. Initial reaction, knee-jerk. That showed me he loved his child deeply. He loved his child deeply. That child wounded one of our warriors. We live in people like DMX when we are struggling in the community. I can remember X is a part of my framework. My DNA is a part of my, my narrative. Stop, drop, shut him down, open up shop. Oh, come on, man. I remember when that dropped. I was a young thing coming up. X meant something to my life. He's on the soundtrack of my life. X is on the soundtrack of my life. As he is with so many of us. As he is with so many of us. And when you're going through oppression and you can hold on to somebody like an X, so many of us leaned on his strength. For decades, we leaned on his strength. That's why X could do no wrong with us. That's how our culture works. And these people don't understand black culture. Because if they understood black culture, then they would understand. Iyanla, you don't put black people through that. You don't put our icons through that. You don't set them up for failure. Because that's what you did on your show. You set them up for failure. You set him up for failure. And then when he got up and walked out, he's like, listen, man, you don't want no relationship with me? Listen, I was doing drugs before you was born. You don't get to put that on me. She wasn't ready for that. She wasn't ready for that. And you know how she responded? How she responded says it all. You respond with hate and anger? You're supposed to be the therapist here. That's why I said she wasn't prepared for that. You wasn't qualified for that. You weren't qualified for that. And you need to know that, Iyanla Vanzant. You need to know that. Where's your remorse? Where's your empathy? Or is it true that some of you black women just hate black men? Is it true, Oprah? Is it true you gone after so many? And now, X. Rest easy, King. Rest easy, King. Rest easy, King. DMX, man, I can't believe he gone. I can't believe he gone. Ultimatum culture. People need to get, special, licenses and have a special understanding of the black man born bred in the black community in the hood. You can't just sandbag a DMX like that. You don't know what that, what that did, that added trauma. You don't know what that did to him. And his untimely death. And I'm committed to looking into that reality. Among also, now that, I don't have to do so much, and I planned on that as well because, ultimately, Malcolm X, our first X that fell to our own, one of the most important crime scenes of the 21st of our century today, the Malcolm X crime scene, because it's so, it's so telling in terms of the deep, bruise of a slave people, having to deal with a slave master, the mentality of a slave master. Okay. Every time I'm in the place of, or in the space of white people, it's like there's always okay, what am I dealing with now with this one? Is this one ready to judge me? Is this one open? Is this one accessible? Is this one fronting? Is this one, ready to knock my head off? We shouldn't have to be subject to live like that. We shouldn't be subject to live like that. If these people had any real decency, you would be who you are and not front with us. And it's sad that we still walk around here today in 2021 feeling like that. And then we have to deal with our own, the ones who have achieved and conquered America. The people who have etched out a place for themselves that are black. Watching them, shuck and jive in so many different respects. Because at the end of the day, our relationship to the land hasn't changed since slavery. Yeah, we got a few homeowners. Yeah, we got some, franchise building owners. We got a few in our culture, who's sitting at the top of the world in the 1%, with Jay-Z and them. They probably go to the same hangouts to stay away from the people, the masses of the people, who are the ones who matter in so many different respects because it is our survival in the face of oppression. We're still at it. We're still at it. DMX, no matter what he achieved, he was still at it with us. He was still with us. Never left us. He wasn't no damn Jay-Z. And I know people like Jay-Z don't give a damn what I'm saying. They don't give a damn. Well, that's what we're fighting against. That's the capitalism we're fighting against. That's what we fighting against. And just like they don't give a damn about us, we don't give a damn about them. Because you know what, if it come down to the come down, when this war begins, if we get to that, Malcolm said there's a potential for America to have a bloodless revolution. But the only solution that we need, that we are going to be able to build from, is a revolution. We have got to change the society that we live in fundamentally. We have to change the people's relationship to the land. That has to change. Or we're all just still living a lie. I don't care what you have. We lost X. We lost DMX. You know, I got these bars of this song I'm working on. You know, they killed King and the Beast, X and the Beast, Huey and the Beast, Pac and the Beast. You know, DMX killed in the Beast. DMX killed in the Beast. We've got to stop giving each other ultimatums. We've got to reconnect. And that's why I'm in the spirit of the warrior Christian. You know, because there are ideals in the Christian faith that we can use in order to rebuild ourselves socially. That we must use to rebuild ourselves socially. It's important to do that. Thou shalt honor thy mother and thy father so that thy days are long. Thank you, Mom, for keeping us focused in the spirit. Keeping us focused in the scriptures. I honor my mother. And I honor my father. And you know, I hope you get some peace. You know, little X. I ain't calling you little X. I'm sorry. You abandoned that man. You abandoned your father in a time of his need. You abandoned him. And yeah, you can say he abandoned you, but you know what? He probably needed some of your strength. But going to that woman and putting him in that situation, that trauma situation, when all he showed you was love, shame on you. Iyanla Vanzant, shame on you. Oprah, shame on you. And y'all will never accept responsibility because that's not how, you people work. You don't accept responsibility for what you do. You just slash and burn us. But you just made it that much harder for black Americans. And I know people are going to come at me, oh my God, why are you blaming them? I'm not blaming anyone. That's the problem with us. I'm not blaming anyone. I know what my spirit felt when I saw that episode where that man walked up and he said, listen, if you don't want to have no relationship with me, I'm sorry. I'm going to be here if you do. His son became his prodigal son that day. That was the prodigal son moment. Rightfully so. That's what DMX supposed to have done. And I'm tired of our culture justifying that kind of ignorance. Oh, B, why you coming out against black women? You hate black women. I don't hate black women. I hate foolishness. And that woman was foolish in that moment. And that's the problem with our culture. I don't care that she's a woman or a black woman. I don't care about that. What I care about is her decency or lack thereof. And she lacked decency in that moment. Period. Ain't got nothing to do with who she is. She lacked decency in that period, in that moment. When she allowed that man to walk out and she didn't humble herself. How do you think that was going to go down? But you know, it's good for your ratings. Which was your only goal in the first place. Which is why you didn't care. And then you had some nerve to say, you never going to be allowed on my platform again. My God. The hubris. What hubris? You're talking to the icon DMX. And you're telling this icon he's not allowed on your platform anymore. You know what? the culture, we may never, ever, ever, ever be able to hold these people like Iyanla Vanzant accountable to their tragic trauma, the trauma that they're creating in our culture. You don't get to tell me that I hate black women because I call out their foolishness when it comes to black men. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. That black woman caused black culture a rupture. And she needs to be held accountable for that. Rest easy, DMX. Yo, we gonna miss DMX. Yo, we gonna miss DMX. But we gonna keep DMX alive. We gonna keep DMX alive. We gonna listen to his music. Every year, April 9th, I'm listening to Earl Simmons music. I'm watching Earl Simmons movies every day. Every day, DMX. Every April 9th. The day God took him from us. I'm going to remember that man. I'm going to remember that man on that day. Because it was a trauma for all of us in black culture who come from the streets. There's a code, there's an honor in the streets that the average person who don't know the streets don't understand. They don't understand. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay in the end, but we're going to have to make it okay because we still got to survive. We still got to get up on Monday morning and go to work. Some of us getting up on Sunday morning. Some of us going to work tonight. We still got to make the donuts. We still got to keep the engine moving forward. We still got to get our babies in school, and we still got to make sure they're educated. We got to change this gang culture. We got to deal with white supremacy, and we got to deal with police aggression. The police still got their knee on our proverbial neck, and that proverbial knife is still halfway in our back. Like Malcolm said, you can't pull a knife, you can't stick a knife in a man's back, pull it out halfway and expect that to be called progress. No. It ain't progress until that knife is removed completely. The wound is sanitized and given ointments, freeing it of infection, and then sealed. And then time to heal. I just don't see that happening in America. Because these people are always pointing at the shit we do in response to their oppression, and they keep our heads there. And then they got people in our community who keep our heads there. Like these mayors and these council people and all these people that are running our cities. They keep reminding us of our flaws while overlooking the state. Why does the state always get away? Why does the state always get away? Tell me why. The state always gets away with murder. They're never held accountable. Why is that? So, with that being said, I'm writing a poem in commemoration and in honor of DMX. Look out for that. I'm gonna put that on my, Facebook page at some point. But I want to really go to town on that poem. Rest easy, King DMX. And yeah, King DMX. I might not be able to attend your homegoing service, But, you know, we're going to celebrate your life. We're going to celebrate your legacy. And we're going to pray for your family. We're going to pray for your kids. And we're going to pray for all of the people. And I'm going to pray right now. Dear Lord, please open your arms, you know, to the warrior DMX, Earl Simmons, Lord. He meant so much to the black community, to the struggling black community, more than many of us can even imagine. Lord, protect his family, protect his children, Lord, his siblings, his parents, guardians, whatever. Protect all of those people who are connected to that warrior spirit, Lord. Give some direction to the black community, Lord. Because, you know, some of us are really hurting over this reality, over this tragedy, Lord. Give them strength. You know, I've been listening to, you know, people on Facebook. I've been listening to people on Instagram. I've been listening to people all over in the black community. And you know, this man was so impactful to us. Everybody knew DMX. So, Lord, you know, cover all of us with a hedge of protection, Lord, as we continue to fight against, you know, a culture in America that is hell-bent on sending us to hell. Help us fight, Lord. This battle is yours, too. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Again, rest easy, you know, King Warrior DMX. And Iyanla Vanzant, I'm going to leave you with this. I pray you get a chance to listen to this. Because you know what, I think so many of us feel like this. And you know, you always going to have a following in this community. Because, you know, there's a whole lot of women out here that hate us. You know, and they're going to overlook your trauma, your tragedies. You know, and I've already encountered that. You know, people like you know, women like you could do anything you want. And you choose, you know, to harm us even further. Because, you know, whether you take responsibility in, you know, the harm you created in that man's world, you know, I mean, I hope you look at that reality yourself. And I'm going to pray for you too. Because you knew not what you were doing in that moment. You weren't prepared for that. You weren't qualified for that. And the world needs to know that. In the meantime, Iyanla Vanzant, peace.